Hi, it's Dr. Fee from Burnout to Bliss, and today we're talking about when empathy sucks and what to do when you feel yourself disconnected, negative, or cynical towards your work and your loved ones. Stay tuned. Hey there, it's Dr. Fee from Burnout to Bliss, and I'm here with the gorgeous Dr. Jagatombe Narayani. And we are talking about ways of overcoming burnout so that you can reconnect with yourself and live with your bliss, whether that's great health, vitality, love and connection, all of it, how to truly thrive in a balanced and meaningful way. And today we're jumping on to talk about a really important conversation, and it's a topic about empathy. And when you find yourself, well, shut down and disconnected from your work, from your relationships, finding yourself feeling rather negative about everything, well, today is going to rock your socks, and we're here to really shine light on a different perspective and, of course, give some strategies that we found important, not just in our own lives, but in helping our clients overcome burnout and find their bliss. And so buckle up, stay tuned. So Dr. Jagatombe, how are you today?
Hey, good. Thanks. Great to be here. Yes, yay. Great to connect.
Yeah, wonderful. So look, burnout, as you know, WHO calls it an occupational phenomenon. And one of the hallmarks of their definition of burnout is that one experiences a sort of a shift in their relationship with their work, become a bit more depersonalized, and there's this increase in feeling negative towards your job, or an increase in cynicism towards your job. And I personally felt this. This is one of the most, I guess, confronting parts of my experience of burnout, working as an emergency doctor. And it was quite a challenge, being someone who had really thrived on being a good person and wanting to help others and giving a damn. And then all of a sudden, in that space of depletion, hearing myself, that inner voice going, you know what, I really couldn't care. Or there was a few more expletives in there. Of course. Beep, 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 beep. And, my inner child is giving everyone the middle finger, of course, like, leave me alone. I don't have anything else to give. And it was really confronting. I remember one particular episode when I'm in ICU, and I think I've shared it or touched on it before, where a little girl was, I think she was 2 months old, and she was dying from whooping cough. And I just was screaming inside my head going, well, there's kids dying all around the world. Like, no one cares about them. Why should I give a damn about this? And it was one of those moments where you just go, oh, who am I become? Like, is this truly who I am now? Who is this person? And a lot of shame comes with that. So yeah, I mean, Jagatombe, how have you seen it show up in our clients? Or if you've got a personal experience, I'm sure, it's something that is certainly something that our clients present with, right? In terms of the relationship and not really wanting to give a darn about work anymore.
Yeah. I mean, it's pretty endemic. Like in a lot of people, we all probably had times where we felt this way, but we see a lot of clients who are are in that state, and it isn't actually just frontline healthcare workers or healers or whoever we think of as like in a major service role. It's actually happening everywhere, in offices, in the home life, in our relationships, where this phenomenon happens where we get really depleted and we get we have cynicism creep in, we get negative thought loops, and we're in that space where we really start to not be ourselves. It isn't ourselves, but we can feel like it it's us because it's, you know, loud and proud in our heads, or not so proud. But and so yeah, what I've seen is like, you know, even in the workspace where people are trying to have interpersonal relationship as a part of their, you know, office work, or their, you know, whatever it is, in finance or wherever they're working. And you know, it's the those relationships are a part of functioning in the workplace and having, you know, it's like the social lubricant of the workplace, but it gets diminished, and it creates, you know, a very different experience of work when you're in that headspace of just like, you know, nobody speak to me, like I'm this full, like F off. And so yeah, and I think people end up, well, what we've seen is like people either end up like having then interpersonal conflicts or dynamics arising with people that they used to get on with even like for years, and then ongoing problems with that, or just like a sense of like disconnection from the, you know, their work and their workspace, and feeling not good about that, feeling frustrated, angry, sometimes shameful about the thoughts they're having, like want to get back to the self that they were, they want to, but they don't know how. So it happens a lot.
And just that constant feeling like I'm failing, right? And especially now, like with most of the vast majority of our Australian audience is in lockdown. You know, in terms of our audience around the world, there'll be other countries who are in lockdown, but here right now in Australia, like 3/4 of our population are in lockdown. And for, you know, people who, and it's not just women, obviously our focus is women, but, you know, people who have got families and they're having to homeschool, and they're also having to continue their job at the same level, like the expectations. So these are the factors outside of us that then come onto us. And, you know, perhaps our bosses don't quite get, maybe they're in a different social situation, maybe they have pressures from their bosses, and it can all kind of come onto us where we're just feeling like I've got nothing left to give, and the expectations are up here, but there's all these other external circumstances, internal circumstances as well, that is creating this massive storm and binding up our, in a way, our personal energy to a point of depletion, where it's just like, you know what, like there is no way right now I have the capacity to meet that expectation, whether it's what I'm putting on myself, what is actually seemingly put upon myself, you know, societally, or by my boss, or by my work culture. And so it becomes this constant experience of, oh my gosh, I'm failing. And well, what happens with that is that we end up feeling even more depleted. You know, we feel even more exhausted and more powerless with it too. And I love, Jagatambe, you talk about, and this is, I guess, where with WHO it being recognized, this definition, as an occupational phenomenon. And again, I think it's too simplistic, it's too of a reductionist view, because we're human beings with lots of relationships and roles, and, you know, there's different hats that we wear that of course is going to get impacted by burnout. And you mentioned about our relationships, you know, and this can be our most deeply intimate relationships with our children and with our partners, with our family. And, you know, it can be really, again, confronting, and it's like a tearing, what's the feeling? It's a real heaviness when you know that you want to be more in your relationship as a daughter, or as a wife, or as, you know, as a mum, and yet you're just going through the motions and you're not really present.
Seen a lot of that, especially, you know, precipitated by this lockdown experience, like a lot of you know, working mums who are feeling guilty that they're not performing to their wishes at work, but then feeling guilty when they're doing the work that they're not being present to their child, particularly in a homeschooling situation. And so guilt's just like mounding up. And then there's, you know, the, you know, dynamic with their partner, and that's also, you know, it's just like escalating to this sense of not feeling good anywhere, because you're feeling like, you know, can do better, or come back to that space of your, you know, open-hearted self that you want to be, but it's kind of all closing down and escalating in that other direction.
And it becomes a real soup of emotions and experience, doesn't it? That then bleeds out into other relationships. So you might find a level of resentment growing between you and your relationship with work, or something happens at work and it just seems so unnecessary or so unrealistic, or like unfair. And that resentment, if not dealt with, it kind of grows and grows. And then before you know it, it's sort of impacting, it's sort of spilling over in a way and impacting your relationship with your husband or wife, or your relationship with your kids. And it's the same feeling. It's just like this level of resentment that grows. And I'm just using that as an example. It could be frustration. It could be sadness. It could be shame, as we've mentioned before. And in the end, what happens is it completely affects your entire lens that you look through in your entire experience, because it's just growing like this cancer. And often there's these patterns in place where you have a sense of it, but you just, a lot of our clients don't know how to actually address that, how to truly address that and meet that part of us, so that it doesn't, this area over here then bleeds over to this area and impact over here. And these patterns of, well, there's, especially when you're in a state of powerlessness, right? It's like, well, I don't know what to do about this, and I'm just going to have to keep on going, push this down and keep moving forward and keep moving forward. And that's the survival state that is speaking very loudly in your ear. And when we're in that survival state, we do get a little bit stupid. We can't see solutions. We get very much focused on the threat. It's a part of the survival state. And so therefore we can't think creatively. We can't even really, it reinforces us that state of powerlessness, and we end up just keep playing it out and becomes a negative spiral, because it just feeds into itself. And it's such a shame, because we can see ourselves taking this trouble here in this work, or my relationship with work, and we can see ourselves projected or be irritable, or we'll take it out on the people who love and cherish us the most. And that can be heartbreaking, because for all of our clients, their number one value and number one priority is generally themselves and their family. Work is important. It's really important. But when they get to this point of burnout, they start to wake up and go, wait up, something's not right here. This is not how I want to be. This is, at the end of the day, my relationships and love and connection is just as important, if not more important, than my work. And it creates this, therefore, what do I have to give up? Seems to be the solution. And that's not what we want for our clients. We want it all, don't we?
Yeah, and we can get it. We just got to change a few things, and that's what we're here for, right?
Yeah, so let's have a look at it then. We've got 3, I guess, ways that we want to talk about the solution. And really, the beautiful thing about being human is that, have you noticed that there's different parts to us? Where we really, sometimes when we're in a survival state, we can just be like moving in life, thinking things, and it's like our body just follows us. We're very disconnected to life. But there is a part of us that is, obviously the physical body and the psychological and the emotional self, the spiritual self, the energetic self. And so we really want to speak to that. And looking at things from a different perspective, a more of a holistic way of looking at it, and give you an idea of, how, if we do that, then we can see that there's lots of stuff that we can do, even when the external circumstances seem overbearing and really disempowering, where we feel very much stuck because of lockdown or COVID, or it might be those other workplace matters or factors that really contribute to burnout, where your boss has made a decision without your engagement, or you really feel disrespected or undervalued, or the culture is a bit toxic there. Well, these strategies can certainly, with implementation, help you to handle and shift that, and handle it in a way that's very powerful and That's what we see time and time with our clients, right, Jagatombe?
Yes.
Yeah. So to kick off, I guess we wanted to really look at and speak to what happens when we focus on the physiological states, and what we can do from that to help us to really shift our relationship to work, and really to get out of a place where empathy sucks to a point where empathy is a part of your it's a part of your skills. It makes you a superhero. So did you want to kick off with that?
Sure. Yeah, so I guess like we touched on a little bit, that concept that, when we're in survival mode, so survival mode is our sympathetic nervous system, our fight or flight. And if we get in that space, our whole physiology is gearing us towards survival. So we are literally looking to fight or flight or freeze to protect ourselves. And that can be really useful if, biologically, the imperative is if we're running across the savannah away from a lion and we have to run up a tree, then that's good that our body wants to do all those amazing things that help our, big muscles work so we can run, and our breath.
Get the hell out.
Yeah. Heart rate increase and all of those things, and the endorphin system responding in that way too.
As you're talking, actually, Jagatombe, my mind isn't thinking about the savannah and the lion. I don't know if you've seen on YouTube, but there's this great thing from, I think it's National Geographic, of I think it was a meerkat running across, and it was a lizard and all the snakes coming out. Have you seen that one? It's like a billion trillion snakes coming around. That for me is a fight or flight.
Yes, there you go. That's it, right? It's like that. It feels like that.
Yes, I'm like having a fight-flight response right now.
That's it. And maybe it would be definitely helpful for the lizard in that moment to have those responses. But when we're having this day in, day out, and our physiology is gearing us in that manner, but our perceived threat is like the meeting with the CEO, or the toxic culture that we experience in this environment, or whatever it is, then it's not actually going to serve us. It actually makes us move into that state of burnout at a physiological level. And so it's like recognizing that if we can start to change our physiology consciously, then we can start to reprogram these responses, which then give us a window to also work on other levels of our being. And it all feeds back, like you were saying, from an integrative approach. It's not like they're separate. It's like, okay, our physiology feeds into our consciousness. The kind of state we're in physiologically will impact our emotional state and the thoughts that we can access. And then similarly, the other way around, if we access different thoughts, if we access different emotions, then our physiology changes. So they're looping back to each other. And so we try to give some tools systematically at all these different dimensions of our being, or levels of self, so that we can have a multi-pronged approach to lifting and shifting. But physiologically, we work with that. We look at things like the breath, things like simple exercises that actually tune into our physiology and get to start to reprogram that. In the even in the ancient traditions, they use pranayama and things like this, breath control. There's some of that now that they're using in the context of training people to be recovering from COVID and recovering and preparing people who are at risk. They're using, different mechanisms, which are the same mechanisms as regulating the breath. So it can help our actual physiological capacity, but also the method behind this is that idea that it feeds back, so that when we are able to change and regulate our breath, it actually changes and regulates our mind. And a lot of this is linked, when we're in fight or flight, you think about the kind of thoughts we're having when we're in the idea that empathy sucks. When empathy sucks, the kind of thoughts we're having is, yes, this baby, well, there's thousands of others, so whatever. But when we're connected to our true, to our true self, then that thought doesn't arise, but also our physiological state is different. And so it all relates. And so what we do is we work on these different levels, and some of the most simple, mechanisms for regulating our physiology can relate to our breath, and also the kind of thoughts and emotional states that we practice, so that we can then impact our physiology. And there's a whole bunch of science about that, and exciting science about, even how simple practices like gratitude can change our immune response and change our DNA telomeres and all of that kind of exciting stuff.
Yeah, so awesome, isn't it?
Yeah.
Literally, we're, in that consistent practice of gratitude, we're literally changing our brain. We're rewiring our brain and becoming different. It's so great. And in turn, we rewire our physiology, and it's so beautiful. And what we witness time and time again as we support our clients with this is that nothing really shifts in the external circumstances initially. Like, it's not like they've had a massive conversation with a husband, or lockdown is all of a sudden finished, or homeschooling is, it's over and they're back. It's the circumstance is still the same. But supporting our clients out of that survival state and giving them tools to really feel powerful in life again, and really helping them to anchor it throughout the day, and what happens is that they just come back and they're celebrating, like, oh my goodness, this time, maybe they're on Zoom and doing a work call, and the kid knocks on the door and comes in, and previously there'd be like the most massive interruption. Do you not know I've got my door closed? But now, out of a survival state, it's like we can just handle what is. And it's like, yeah, okay, he's come in, he needs my attention right now, I'm just going to have to handle this. Because in helping them out of that survival state, and allows them to be able to just handle what is, and be able to deal with that, and in a way that is with heart and love, and recognizing that their child needs them right now, and that's just what is. So let me deal with this, and the child is happy because child needed mum's help, for instance, with homeschooling. And it's just a beautiful thing to witness, isn't it? It's like, well, asking them, well, what happened? Was it that this big, because a lot of our clients, when they come to us, have tried controlling stress, have tried to either leave that relationship, or, that person's toxic, so I'm going to shut them out, or I'm going to leave that job. But it's like a pattern can keep playing out. Problems follow us. If we try and run, what happens? Our problems run faster, And so it's a big awakening for our clients to see, actually, how I am and the state that I am can make this circumstance a beautiful experience or my worst nightmare. And what changes is me. And it's not that we're taking away those obstacles. No way. COVID is still happening. Vaccination rollout and the delays with that, and all, it's still happening. Life is still full of uncertainty. But what shifts is how we get to handle that.
Yeah, it's a beautiful thing. And what's interesting in that is not only, to continue on with your example, like when that child comes and that happens and there's a different there, but also how we feel and how we think about that experience, in terms of, okay, now I'm, in the old situation, oh my God, like that happened at work, and what do they think of me, and and now it's like, you know what, it's okay, I give myself permission to be present in that moment with the what isness. And when we start to give ourselves that permission, so we're changing our mindset, we actually create different boundaries with work that support balance, and that we don't feel guilty about that, or create different boundaries at home that support balance at work, and we don't feel guilty about that because we're in that sweet spot rather than that that fear response. And so it's a really beautiful thing to see. And there's a lot of transformation that can end up happening in terms of conversations and new boundaries, but it does start with that change in self, with that change physiologically.
Oh my gosh, yes. What an amazing point. So for those who are tuning in, that is such an important distinction to take away. Like, how we have this conversation time and time again with our beautiful clients who, they might show up where they have felt very shut down and disconnected in their relationship, and their marriage might be on like a thread away from absolute breakdown. And yet And it's a sense of, well, I've tried having this conversation, and we just end up just talking about the same thing, and it ends up in the same place, and the resentment and that barrier grows, and it can feel very disempowering for them. But actually, when we support them in shifting their physiology and the mindset and the emotional and the energetic aspects and spiritual aspects that go with that, now they come to the same situation, the same relationship, with the same history, with the same conflict, with the same arguments playing out in the past, but come to it in a different way. That what has shifted is just them, their isness, their being themselves, and have the conversation. It's like all of a sudden the other person can hear them. And I know it can be like, it's kind of like you need proof of that, and I get that. But we see it time and time again, don't we? Where relationships in the very first week, it's like, oh my gosh, we're getting a divorce. And by week 3, it's like, oh my gosh, we're in love again. And it's all wonderful. And, and it happens because really we can say things, but if we're in that state of survival and that energy of pressure and fight, flight and stress, people feel it. People feel us, don't they? People feel us. People feel our energy. We can say, oh, everything's fine, but actually underneath it is like poison. Damn you. It's your fault that I dropped my drink or something like that. It's fine. And so, yeah, it's a really beautiful thing to wake up to, that actually, even if we've had that same conversation time and time again, and we feel like, oh, there's nowhere for us to go, then big breath, guys, because actually in our experience, that's not always the case, right?
Totally. Yeah, often not the case.
Yeah. And I've had that in my relationship with my husband as well, when, we've had the same conflict play out, where we're sort of shut down and disconnected, and what is he showing me, what's coming up for me? Okay, I'll work on this and I'll get my state, because of course when we come together in a conversation, this could be with you and your work, this could be you and your boss, it's not just doesn't have to be with your partner. Once we actually work on it and we can get ourselves back into a state of acceptance and calm, and back into feeling relaxed, and we're in the parasympathetics, then we come, and it's amazing. And I'll speak to my husband about it, and he'll be like, well, why didn't you just tell me? Like, right. I thought I had been for the last, but it's true, because when we are in a state of survival and we talk and we're like this, and people can feel, and people get defensive, and we're then got two parties feeling very defensive. It doesn't go so well. So that feeds into, I guess, number 2, which is really about shifting our mindset, and not just mindset. And mindset is a term that can cover psychology as well as our emotional needs or our emotional awareness. And it's really about acknowledging and looking at what factors within us, our psychology and how we meet, and the patterns that are at play there, and how we meet our emotional needs, that can really contribute to this empathy fatigue, or this cynicism, or this negative approach to work. You want to kick us off with that, Jagatambe?
Yeah, sure. So I guess, like a lot of the time we have these internal rules and these internal schemas or belief systems that we're operating under unconsciously. And so, we might have been conditioned to go, okay, to be a good person, I need to work hard, and fulfill my tasks, or whatever it is, to be loved and approved of, I need to be excellent or perfect,
Yes.
Things like that.
I'm ticking the box for both of those. Yes, that was an old rule. Yes.
I know those rules. Yeah. And so we have these programs, which if we ask our conscious mind or our considered opinion, we'd say, no, that's not my considered opinion. I don't think that's true. But actually we're operating under that unconsciously. We're operating under that rule. We actually believe it, even though if we thought about it, we'd say, no, that shouldn't be, or no, I don't believe that that's true. And so they're kind of running the show, because our unconscious mind is like the bottom of the iceberg, and the conscious mind's the tip of the iceberg. So the bulk of it is actually not conscious to us. You know, what we can naturally, normally think is not what is running the show, you know. So we have these programs, these conditionings, these tendencies, and we operate under them. And so when we're put in situations like when there's pressure, you know, at work or at home or whatever, we may have these unconscious expectations on ourselves to be a certain way. And then that can definitely contribute to how we behave and the decisions we make, which lead to burnout. Because if we're thinking I've got to be the perfect mom, the perfect worker, the perfect wife, the perfect daughter, which, you know, often we do unconsciously think that, then it creates an enormous pressure in our being to then perform in a certain way, and our standards are like through the roof. And then we end up pushing ourselves out of balance and responding with stress, which again goes back to the physiology of stress. And it keeps going and it keeps going and it keeps going. And so then our capacity to respond gets more limited in some ways. So then that perpetuates that emergency or that sense of fight or flight. And we also have a mindset that goes with that, which is like, you know, I've got to get this done. This has to be done, but I've also got to get this done. And I'm like literally like cleaning my teeth while I'm dialing the phone or doing multitasking in ways that's not effective. It just revs us up. It revs us up. And
more mistakes, more reactions, more stuff to clean up.
We think we're being super productive, but we're just being super busy, you know. I'm sure we've all had that feeling, like, you know, like, and so it's just sometimes feels counterintuitive, but a part of it is like slowing things down when we feel pressure. Everything in our being saying, I've got to go faster. I've got to go faster. I'm thinking faster. I'm working faster. I'm squeezing more in my day. But actually, you know, physiologically, mentally, and emotionally, we want spaciousness. We don't want to cram more in. And so that spaciousness comes through also examining what are the underlying, you know, schemas or underlying unconscious patterns the rules that we're buying into, that we've been programmed into from, you know, young age. What have we been conditioned into that we can examine and bring into the light of consciousness from the unconscious? If we can then become conscious of that, we get to have a choice. Wherever it's the unconscious, we're just playing it out. When we become conscious of that, we can say, is this serving me? Is it really true that I have to, you know, perfectly finish everything by today? You know, is that actually true, or is that just me running on that program?
You know? Me running on that dopamine hit that I love because I get to tick off my to-do list. But the thing is, as soon as you tick something off, you create another 5 things to put on your to-do list. It's a never-ending story.
And there's that thing, right? If my inbox isn't empty, then I can't relax.
I'll only be happy when.
So it's like rewriting that. Like, how do I be in the spaciousness of knowing that there's always going to be something in my inbox in life, but that doesn't have to impact on my state of being in a way that brings me into anxiety.
Love it.
And so when we start to bring consciousness to these patterns, that's what we do. We get to have that power to go, okay, well, no, I'm examining this and I'm rewriting these programs. And so we work on that. We release the old programs and we implement new programs. And with, you know, consistency of aim and effort, just a little bit, you know, but consistently, this can change very quickly because we're also working on these different levels. And so we start to have new programs to lean into, and we start to challenge the old ones and not give our power to them. I love
that so much. And that's how, you know, when you're in that state of absolute struggle and that addiction to busyness and, you know, caught in those patterns of perfectionism or depletion and disconnection, you can see that the solution kind of seems either or, like my family or my work. You know, it's not possible. But as you were describing, it's that consistency and of implementing simple things consistently and just, you know, working on it, which is very much breaking out of a lot of patterns for a lot of our clients, which is all or nothing, you know, where all of a sudden we're like, we have that moment of like, I'm so frustrated, I'm so sick of, that's it. and we make some really like big, grand decisions. And, you know, whether it's often there's a lot of restriction in it, a lot of rules in it. There's a lot of always, I'm never that comes into it, which is good for a few days, maybe a week. And then boom, we're off that. And then we beat ourselves up, don't we? And really that simplicity and I guess those simple steps and no effort ever been wasted, which is what I love you talking about all the time with our clients and reminding me of that, is that that consistency helps us to break out of that all or nothing, to be shifting ourselves into, well, actually, this, I want a full life. You know, most of our clients want a full life. They want to have career and purpose and meaning and loving relationships and spending time with family and feeling spacious and enjoying life. So therefore, it's not the all or nothing or the either or that's really going to match, you know, this life of freedom and fulfillment. And so that's what we're helping. It's really, and I guess the question might be, well, what are those simple things that we need to do? And yeah, I guess it is looking at it from a framework. Well, obviously it's helping us to get out of those patterns. And like you said, Dr. Jagatambe, is that often we don't know what we don't know, which is why we love group work. You know, clients do a lot of group work. And the reason is because when you hear someone else going through a similar situation, it's how you can kind of go, oh, you're bringing the unconscious, what is within you, to the conscious. And now, like you said, you've got a choice. But it's also shifting out of that framework of I should, I've got to, or, you know, the solution is that black and white, all or nothing, to be able to learn how to tune in to determine what it is that I need right now. And what I need right now is going to be different to what you need, right, Dr. Jagatambe? There'll be times and there's themes of course, the essence of it. But what I love, and I think one of the most empowering things for our clients, is where they get to wake up to realize, actually, I know what's best for me. And as mum of my kids, I know what it is that needs to happen so that I can support them in the best way. And it's coming back to that home, coming back to our power, determining who I am and what I want and what my needs are and how I meet those needs is everything. And then we get to live life in that way versus, you know, conditioning and the unconscious of I'm not enough, I'm not worthy, I don't belong, I'm invisible, you know, that drives us to strive, and I'll be happy when I. And so it's really a powerful process.
Yeah. Yes, it's beautiful, isn't it? And I think building on that, you know, like that part around our needs, you know, we also have these emotional needs, and getting systematic about that and acknowledging that, you know, so we've got like our unconscious programs, but we've also got these like fundamental needs emotionally. And I think a part of our programming can sometimes be that it's not okay to have needs, you know.
Yes.
Have shame.
I'm going to fight nature. It might be okay for everybody else, but for me, it's not okay.
Yeah, that's right. Hey, and it's like, and we do see that a lot, you know, some of the most you know, actually compassionate, heartfelt women who would, you know, bend over backwards for anyone, their family and people, strangers down the road, will be like completely strict on not giving themselves what they need, you know, completely because of that conditioning. And so there's that discrepancy, and that is really a big part of also, you know, making empathy not suck again, which is where we go, okay, there's an imbalance here, you know, that feeling that we get, which we could describe as empathy sucks, you know, is actually saying there's an imbalance between what I'm giving out and what I'm, you know, also giving to myself. And so to create that balance again, where we can have our cup full, you know, we want to fill up our cup and meet our needs and let it overflow. Whereas like there's a lot of mindset stuff in there, there's a lot of conditioning in there that says that's selfish. You know, I'm selfish if I look after my own needs. I should put everyone else first. That's what being a good mum is. That's what being a good worker is, putting the company's needs first or whatever it is, but it's not sustainable. That's the problem with that one. It's a great sentiment to be altruistic or to want to help others, but it actually works best. This is the cool thing about it, is we can fulfill our true yearning to be of service to others and make a difference in the world and share our love and care with the people we love or in our work or wherever it is.
Yeah.
But the way to sustain that is actually to have it in a sustainable balance, which means filling our cup up and, then letting it overflow joyfully, abundantly, to be in the space of the freedom of giving, the joy of giving, the joy of actually living a life that we love, whether it's shining at work and shining at home or wherever we want to be. And so
and it leads so much into working smarter, and it feeds into the first one. Then we know what it is that's necessary to, I'm triggered, I'm out of my parasympathetic state right now, I'm in a sympathetic state, and we work. It's not to avoid that, it's going to happen. Stress is a beautiful process that helps us to deal with, our stress response helps us to deal with stress. It helps to strengthen us if it's short-lived. And so all of this, it's not about avoiding it, it's about knowing that that's a part of the process. It's the design of life, and so it helps. That then helps us from a physiological part and point to get us back into our state as well, and and bring our own flavor of what that looks like in the moment to be able to meet my needs. It could be dancing, it could be laughing, it could be watching cat videos. For a moment, not getting caught on Facebook.
But yeah, when we really do, acknowledge our emotional needs and then take a stance of compassion with that. And I think that's a big key, like, oh no, I've got these needs and it's just another task I've got to fulfill. My own needs now, they're on the list, It's like,
that's it. It is true though. People do self-care.
Yeah.
It becomes a doing thing. It becomes another burden.
Yeah. And so we kind of work with that, and we have beautiful paradigm to work through that, to open, and our clients, and, we've done the work too, of really connecting with that spaciousness of compassion for the self. And it's from that space that we can then implement things from it in a different way. It's like a really heartfelt way, and it's a very rewarding way to then hold the self in, and then we're capable of holding others in that space. So then empathy is awesome, because we are really connected and fulfilled. Our cup is full, our needs are met, and from that space, okay, I can, my oxygen mask is on first, so then I can go and put oxygen mask on other people. If I don't, then I'm going to run around the plane and collapse pretty soon.
Yes. Absolutely I love that so much, and I think that's a really great way of transitioning into our third topic, or way of, or layer of how we help people shift out of that empathy sucks back into, empathy rocks, or, how to really melt away that disconnection, whether it's resentment or pain that can build that barrier between you and your work, or you and your loved ones. And it's really around a concept of energy and energy medicine. And it's something that I know was so powerful for helping me to, it was the pivotal step to get me out of burnout. It was a session that I had, which was purely based on energy medicine. And actually energy psychology, because it was consciousness and bringing energy to a modality like CBT, which is a more of a psychological intervention that most people know. And it blew my mind. I was a critical care doctor who was looking at the evidence behind amiodarone for heart arrhythmias and ICU, and feeling burnt out, feeling incredible empathy fatigue, feeling very, very disconnected, really wondering who I am and where am I heading and all of this, to then in one session having a massive paradigm shift. And that's when you came into my life, Dr. Jagatambe, to help with that paradigm shift. But it also created, just FYI, a little bit of shock, because it's like, whoa, how did I not know about this? So our third point is about this. It's about protecting and uplifting your personal energy. And I'm talking about vibration. I'm talking about this state of being that, obviously our emotions and our emotional state contributes to that. And simply at that time in my life where I felt very much empathy sucks and depleted, like empathy, if you understand, it's this gift where we can truly feel another, we can put ourselves in their shoes. I was very, and a lot of our clients are very sensitive and very highly empathetic. It's like all of a sudden, we can even cry watching the news. We can cry watching an ad. We can really feel what another feels. And it's a gift that all humans have, but for some, it's very much a power, and it's what makes us that ability to connect with another. But what I was finding without understanding about energy is that I'd have an interaction with someone and they would offload, and I'd be there because I'm a helper and I'm supporting, and I'm then holding on to their stuff, and they're walking away and saying, "Oh, it was so good speaking to you, bye." And I'm there going, whoa. I feel full. I'm like an emotional sponge taking this on. And in that time where I felt very disconnected from my work and hearing that voice, feeling very burnt out, really what contributed to that was the fact that a lot of my personal energy was bound up in a lot of pain and guilt and despair. I'd come back from Africa. It was such a confronting experience. Children in my care died, and I wasn't prepared for that. And I had no tools to be able to handle a normal response to that situation. And when I looked around, working in the hospital, looked around at my mentors as ways of how to deal with this emotional distress, this emotional pain, I saw two solutions. One was take up running marathons, and the other was drinking alcohol. Both weren't a great solution. And that's where, obviously, I was seeking more, and came across Ignite Your Spirit therapy, and it was the start of a whole new chapter for me. So this point is really about that. We have personal energy and we're in limited supply. And if we're holding on to pain, resentment, sadness, experiences, have you noticed that we can feel a little more shrunken and tightened and disconnected and contracted, and, well, actually little left to give to other people? And so this is really to consider that. We want to sort of expand your way of thinking about life. And we're not really going to the depths of energy and energy medicine right now, but just thinking about what is it that really helps you to feel, that lifts you. And that could be, nature helps. Spending a couple of minutes in nature, she's pretty good, or have you noticed going for a swim in the ocean? And for those who are in lockdown, you're like, yeah, well, that's not possible. Okay, I get that, but so can a bath, and putting in salt water and a soak, and so can listening to music and meditation, and, like we said, meeting our emotional needs. That helps us to really meet that part of us that is bound, binding our personal energy, so that we can let go. It's this concept of letting go, so that we have more of our personal energy to be present. And of course, what we love to talk about is co-creating an amazing life that we love, and really bringing ourselves to life and feeling alive. So yeah. Awesome. What would you like to add with that, Dr. Tom? I know it's so hard because now we want to talk about energy, don't we?
Well, I guess, from my own personal experience, I was also deeply transformed by getting conscious about etheric hygiene, and in my role, I was working in a psychiatric inpatient unit, and also in a hospital. And I also had that experience. I got into into my profession wanting to help people, and was naturally already someone who would be the person people gravitated towards and would tell their stories and feel held and loved. But over time, like that, as well as my own personal journey, I didn't know, I didn't know about energy or how to move it or how to take care of it or any of that stuff. And so when I was working, as a psychologist in those roles, in those settings, I would come home and I'd just feel completely exhausted, and completely tired. And I would think about my clients and their stories, and I'd try not to, but it just didn't have any tools to kind of know how to release myself from that energy that was triggering those thoughts. And so then learning the tools of how to take care of my personal energy, learning how to release energy in between clients, let alone at the end of the day, learning how I could come home and just be aware of energy to the point of like having a shower after work and things like that, which are game changers, like complete game changers. After I started implementing these etheric hygiene tools, I was able to just have a completely different experience of work and have more energy to share and give. So yeah, it was a complete game changer for me as well, back in the day, and then just built on that from there. So,
and I still do that. I work from home, and I need it's like a ritual, which is where we have a habit and we bring our intention to it. And for me, it's about ensuring I let go of my clients, my work, my role as, Dr. Fee, finding bliss, burnout to bliss. And okay, now it's time to be mummy, or it's time to just enjoy another aspect of life. And so I will still go and have a shower. Yeah. And it is very cleansing, and, being in there and thinking, okay, this is just let this go. This is done for today. It's done for today. And that way it's now my time getting myself ready to be unwinding and spending time and having that loving connection and getting ready to rest and have a really good night's sleep. And so it's a part of that process. And that, again, these etheric hygiene and just bringing your intention to look after and protect your personal energy, but also what can I do? How do I bring in more fun? That can also uplift our energy, and that has a physiological effect. There's beautiful studies that look at, information-based versus session versus an hour of watching comedy and what happens. And, watching comedy can actually have a genetic, shift your genes and, have a benefit on you. And so there are beautiful case studies of people who heal themselves through laughter, and really being selective on that. And so it might be that that's a part of what needs to happen on a very simple level of having that, it's letting go of your work for the day so that you can then come back into it with a renewed passion and more energy and really help to get your sense of self back and enjoyment and work again. And then that becomes a positive momentum. It becomes a beautiful cycle where we then fill up and have more energy to give other aspects of life too.
Yeah. And I really love that about the program, that because I think a lot of the time when we talk about, protecting our energy, there's a lot of, like, okay, batten down the hatches, you're too toxic, get out of here.
I got to cut you out of my life.
Yeah. And that's kind of not how we roll, so it's like, it's about uplifting our energy and getting wise about how we can be in all situations and still be centered and robust and joyful, like the sun blazing through the clouds. It's like it still shines everywhere. And I think that that's an important distinction. And it's great to, have those tools to also bring and connect with that which uplifts us, that which is going to change us towards what we want, more of.
Beautiful. And that feeds into our second point, which is, when we know what our needs are and how best to meet them, we then have the ability to discern what is required in any situation, which is this a boundary, or is this where I get to really, like you said, be the sun and shine and blaze out, which is, of course, we want that all the time. So it's like just knowing we get to, because, often when something happens in life, our patterning, our programming is like, quick, let's do a solution. Quick, let's solve this. act, or, act to resist, act to solve, act to, whatever. And from our perspective, and what we help ourselves and our clients to do, is realize that there's actually a more powerful step to take before that. Sure, if you're on the savannah getting chased by a lion, run. But we're talking about in life generally, challenges happen, always does, how we are with ourselves and how we can really, first of all, vibrationally take care of ourselves. So protect our energy, look after ourselves, get clear, meet our emotional needs, determine if there's something what's got triggered in me. So that really what we're doing is looking after ourselves first. And then from that, now we're going to have a better idea of what all the possible solutions are, and make a decision to act, not react in that state of frustration, shame, blame, crappiness. And so doors keep opening. And that's a fun way to do it.
Yeah. Totally. That's awesome.
So there you go, guys. It's been a really rich conversation, and I really, I encourage all of you, if you take away points, anything that really jumped out at you that was, curiosity, journal about it, capture it, ask yourself some great questions like, how could I anchor that in my life? How could I anchor more fun? How could I anchor strategies to lift my energy or to really support myself in meeting my own emotional needs? Or what could I be anchoring throughout the day to shift my physiological state from sympathetic to parasympathetic? And good luck. It's a very, very good question to be asking yourself. And we ask questions to find valuable solutions, and these are solutions to really support you on a deeper, more profound way. And if you want some support with that, then absolutely reach out to our team to have a clarity session, and you'll get so much out of it. They're a beautiful team and truly, truly care about our clients. And this is where you have the opportunity to really determine where you're at right now. Because of all these patterns and programs that are in place, sometimes we are in denial, sometimes we're pushing down, pushing on, sometimes we just don't see it because we're in that state of survival and all we can see is limited. And it's really, this conversation is there to really get you connected to what it is that you want. And if we're a great fit, then it could be the very step that needs to happen for you to have a whole new experience of life, embracing life in a whole different way. And so I really encourage you guys to reach out. Yay! Wonderful. So from our hearts, good luck with this. And if you're in that state where you're like, you know what, empathy really sucks, well, we encourage you to implement this and, see it as your superpower, and many, many blessings for you to come back to that state where you get to live from the heart and, be connected with fellow human beings. And we're all here walking each other home.
That's it. Yeah, nothing better.
Thank you for joining me again, Dr. Jagatambe. I just love it. I love these conversations. What a blessing to have you on a team.
Yeah.
Yes. All right, guys. Take care. So much love.
Bye.
Thanks so much for tuning in, guys. If you would like to subscribe and keep in touch, then click on my head and you'll subscribe to the channel. If you'd like to book a call with our team for an amazing life-changing experience, then click on the button beneath this, which is book a clarity session, or go to our website, findingbliss.com.au/apply, and be sure to fill out a short application form to secure the opportunity. Awesome. Stay tuned, and I look forward to seeing you on our next session. Big love.